Apologies once again for the technical issues that we've been rectifying throughout this race, but we're back here on ApexRacingTV for round number 6 of the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship. Currently, we've got 26 minutes elapsed into the race, and just looking at Elliot Biddle and the battle for the GT3 class lead at this moment. Still Louis Gallon currently in the lead. Dominic Ferreras in second. Got one of the, I think that's Porsches in behind that, and one of the GTEs, I think it's Dennis Fielder, coming out of the pit lane. So some of the drivers have been taking stops whilst we've been rectifying these issues, but still not even half of this race gone, and still a lot of action out there on track.
Yeah, definitely. We haven't really focused on it a huge amount up front, but leading the GTE field at the moment, Daniel Gilcadella in the BMW. He's got himself a nice 0.3 of a second lead over Reman Azim. These two have been pretty well inseparable for the bulk of this race so far. They did drop off one of the BMWs there, and I think that was Cruel Villiers, and he's quite a way back, back to the tune of 11 seconds behind this battle. So they've been able to get some really good pace in both these cars, and the lap times, as we're keeping an eye on it, both in the 141s last time by. So the two quickest GTEs out on field at the moment, and both of them leading class, but absolutely nothing separating these two. And this will be a really good test for Daniel with the sim races behind, just to see whether they can start applying some pressure. But being a real life racer, no doubt he's going to be well up to the test of this.
Yeah, certainly. The only other GTE in the 141s was Johan Hellemans, who is currently in 8th position. So certainly the front two very, very quick, but still some very, very quick drivers a little bit further back. I see that last time for Hellemans was a 43.4, so, but still some very stonking pace out there for them, the front two. Verhey last time of 1 minute 42.1, so still pulling away about 5 or 6 tenths of a second per lap, these front two here.
Yeah, I think this will be a theme we'll continue to see for him. You can see Helio Kovenbach just working through the front of our GT3 field. We did have one of the cars there under Paul Gallen come through, so he's dropped in for his stop. That'll put Dominic Ferraris out in the lead of this class, and he'll keep working on. But Kovalanova doing a pretty good job. Most of the guys giving him a fair bit of room, and he's extending that leader. He's quite a long way now.
Yeah, certainly with the top speed of the prototype, be making quick work of all of the GT cars coming through. But we'll see whether the GT3 leader of Dominic Ferreras comes through to the pit lane this time. But yeah, with not even being halfway, we'll see whether he dives in, and he's going to, as well as Elliot Biddle, I see as well, is into the pit lane as well. Also Christopher Zerchling as well. So we very, very quick stop for these two. See, where is Louis Gallon, if I can find him in the timing screen. There he is. He's just coming around the banking right now of turn, well, the oval of turn 4. But coming out of the exit of the oval and across the start finish line, we'll see where Dominic Ferreras is. They're just coming through right now, and it looks as though that Louis Gallon is going to steam through.
And yeah, I think he'll actually extend that lead quite a long way as well.
Also got to be careful of the prototype coming through as well. That's going to break this pack up even more. Who is that? I think that is Alexander Veldman, and it is in his prototype there.
Yeah, allowing these two to still fight, which is good to see. I think both of them, Biddle there, just opening up the door just a touch, just to let that car through. Obviously not going to be a concern to him, but you should get a really nice tow as you see the guys working their way up onto the banking again for another lap 19 here. So getting pretty familiar with how these cars get up onto that bank there. You can see Richard Rizzle just in front of Luis Palagallan, and keeping the pace pretty comfortably at the moment. Gallen will probably be enjoying having a little bit of a draft at the moment. That'll help him save a touch of fuel, but he'll certainly want to get on. As you can see him look down for a run into the bus stop, and this will be a great passing opportunity if he can pull it up.
Yeah, and that's going to compromise the prototype of Velbin and Ferreras as well, and he's into the wall, sadly, with the slow. And Biddle's around as well, so that slow GT3 and the prototype having to check up is certainly opened this battle between Louis Palagallan and Richard Burzel now. So I think Burzel hadn't pitted, but the cars behind him had, so bit of an off strategy with the group of Louis Palagallan, Dominic Ferreras and Elliot Biddle. See that Elliot's still recovering to the pit lane, but I don't think he'll be going too much further from here on in.
No, it was a lot of heavy contact in with the wall, and while they will be able to come down and try and get it repaired, that's going to really knock them down quite a few laps to get that all repaired and underway. So it's very unfortunate for those two. They were really looking good, and probably the biggest chance to give Gallen a run for his run towards.
Yeah, certainly. With currently on screen, we've got Max Maltino. Looked as though he was going to pick up that slowdown penalty, but I think he just about got away with it with that exit of the bus stop. But is that Taylor Lane coming through to the pit lane right now? So our lead Daytona prototypes into the pit lane.
Yeah, I think those guys will all come out relatively interesting or close together when they do. Obviously, we did see Kovalanabak getting about a 10-second lead just before they dropped in. But it's going to be interesting too to keep an eye on what the pit stop intervals are for these three cars, and just to see whether Loomis or Lane are actually able to close that gap down. Just
see Loomis taking a 1.5 second shorter pit stop, and Taylor Lane being the slowest of the three drivers, not too far behind Colvenbach, and Loomis getting a little bit held up by the traffic there, but it looks as though that the gap between Loomis and Colvenbach has closed up to 7 seconds, which has been an astonishing effort, to be fair, to Loomis, but going up the inside of one of the GTEs, the number 14 car of Drolet. A bit of a risky move there, but gets the job done.
yeah, very tight there. I think he was able just to get that car slowed up just enough in time, and both those guys getting through pretty good there. But you see that Daytona prototype now on the run through the hill, through the banking there, really starting to show the pace, and comparative to the GT3 car behind him, it's a fair bit of top line advantage for that car.
Yeah, certainly. Just trying to look to see who the car is behind. I think that is, yeah, that is Drolet behind. So a couple of GTEs behind. GTE's potentially slowest class in the straight line, but certainly got the aerodynamic advantage over the GT3. But then with the prototypes having, I would say, equal or better advantage with the downforce and the power, enabling that high top speed of around 290 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, and top speed around Daytona is certainly a key, especially with the amount of time you do spend out on the banked oval there. Obviously, you've got that small little run through the infield, which we're watching the guys working their way through now, but the majority of this lap spent really high gear between 5th and 6th as you run around the outside of the hill. So getting top speed out of all these guys really critical. I'm sure a lot of these drivers probably got the wing angles turned near enough to flat, and the gear ratios set reasonably high to maintain those speeds around here.
Yeah, certainly with just looking into that BMW, it's looking fairly flat as well in terms of rake. So I would say that the at least this BMW's main setup is more towards the top end rather than pure acceleration. But then again, he's still keeping with the Ferrari just ahead of him. I think that Drolet is at least maybe 3 to 4 laps down now. So I think there was a bit of contact at the start of the race, which sadly ended his chance of winning here today, but still in the fight as well. So if there's any opportunities for positions gained, he's certainly going to be able to grab them.
Well, yeah, definitely. And I mean, we saw Drolet getting into some issues earlier on the run out of, I think it was lap 1. He was in a little bit of traffic there and had some damage. So he's able to come back pretty well. You can see one of the the Daytona prototype's completely different looking car, cutting his way through, and those guys just giving enough room to allow that car through. But outright speed after that bit of contact really hasn't impacted him too much there.
Yeah, certainly. Just turning our attention back to the lead GTE battle at the moment. Still, Juncadella and Azam separated by half a second. Virtually nothing separating between these two drivers. Only 200ths or less separated them last time around. So, but Juncadella still setting the pace. Just a couple of hundredths faster last time around. Azam's still holding in there. So looks as though that a couple of the GTEs are starting to pit as well, so it looks as though that the GTE windows open as the fuel windows open for the GTE right now, so we should see them within a couple of laps, just coming up to the 38-minute mark.
Yeah, this is sort of traditionally the time we would be getting ready to see the last final battles really starting to shape up. So to have an extra 20 minutes on the clock, I think these guys are really going to relish that and set up for a few more opportunities. Surprised to see just how quick Roman Azum's been just there behind in that IMSA BMW. He's been able to really keep on well with Daniel Juncadella there, just in the green and black BMW. So those two cars, as far as outright pace goes and top speed, very, very similar right now.
And from this angle, it looks as though that Juncadella and Azam are into the pit lane. So just as I cut to the gearbox cam, they're into the pit lane. So lead two GTEs in the pit lane, and we'll see where Kirill Verhey is at the moment. He's coming around the banking at the moment. 19-second stop for Verhey, and this was on lap number 21. So he was in 3 laps ago.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on the track map just to see where these guys are. They haven't finished their time yet. You can see actually both of them almost an equal time. Juncadella just a touch quicker there by about
Yeah, and it's pretty much the length of the well, effectively the pit straight, but it's obviously in a tri-oval, so all the way from pretty much the exit of turn 4 to the entry to turn 1 is the gap between Azam, Juncadella and Verhey, to the tune of about 15.5 seconds at this time. So just across the 2/3 distance mark. Currently on lap 25 for the prototypes, and we are on lap number 24 for the GTEs, and just coming up to lap number 24 now for the GT3s.
Yeah, Christopher Zochran up on screen at the moment. We saw him having a really good run earlier on. He finds himself up into second place now as a result of the incident with Ferraris and Biddle. So that's a great result for him. And the IMSA cars at the moment looking very strong in both GTE and GT.
Yeah, absolutely. Full credit to the guys at the IMSA team for being able to turn around their cars as quick as they have, and certainly reaping the rewards, as so to speak, as of now. But certainly don't want to put the commentator's curse on them now. But certainly looking at a very strong result for that team. Just looking a little bit further back, Scott Sosowski for Trick Sim Sports in third at the moment, so he's 7 seconds back from Zerchling, but critically he's 11 seconds ahead of Gabriel Rizzo in the fourth position. Just got him on screen right now.
One of the drivers we haven't mentioned much of, but slowly worked his way up towards the pointy end of the GTE field at the moment. Alain Day, right behind him there, Troy Maguire and Johan Hellman. Those three cars, you see them all on track right now, going for a run down into move. Hellman getting both cars on the run into one. That's a big pass from him, and actually potentially going to lose both those spots again on the outside there, but making his intentions clear that he's trying to get that Porsche right up in front of those two cars.
Yeah, certainly it looks as though that Hellman's has got a very trimmed out Porsche. Typically you wouldn't see the Porsche being as quick as it has been, but certainly with the pace that Hellman's has, he's certainly got the speed to put pressure on the 7th and 8th positions in the GTE class. But Maguire all over the back of Day as they're coming up onto the banking out of turn 6.
Yeah, and Alan Day is not an easy customer to get past. He makes that car quite wide. Still very respectful to the drivers around him. So it's going to be a really good test here for Maguire. He's going to really tuck up under that draft. Day sticks the car towards the middle and inside of the track there, and he's really going to force Maguire, who's got the draft and actually gets through on the run into the bus stop there. And that's a great pass from both drivers, giving just enough room to eke their way through.
Yeah, certainly. This is the closest battle on the circuit at the moment. 7th, 8th and 9th positions in GTE. The next closest battle we've got is the GT3 field. Cut away from that. We've got Maguire up on the inside now, so he's got the run. And then Hellerman's trying to go around the outside of both of them once again. It's going to be last of the late breakers, and Maguire gets the job done on Alan Day. Hellerman just has to sit behind. So Maguire up into 7th position.
Yeah, it's some solid racing. Those three nearly inseparable as they crossed the line there. I think all of them clocked a very, very similar time. As they went around there, Day just getting out of it a touch. You can see it really starting to funnel down into one there. Probably the smart move not to cause an incident, but as a result of that, has dropped a little gap between Maguire. You can see them working their way through turn 5. Now, Day's car just struggling a touch for front end turn in, so that's not helping his cause there, but closes right in under brakes again.
Looks as though that the Team Ebrit BMW is quite stiff on the front, which is not allowing him to turn in, especially in the toe of the Ford. So that was certainly something that's hindered him, but then Hellerman's is closing in as well. And into the bus stop they go. We'll see how close Hellerman's gets this time.
See the Porsche struggling a little bit on exit, but right up here will be where it'll make everything happen. Currently going around the oval 280 Ks, and he's going to start getting right up on the back there. As you see a little bit of lap traffic up ahead, one of the GT3 cars. I think that might have been actually Ferraris. I thought it might have been going around the outside, and yeah, just allowing those guys to get through.
So just give a bit of an update on our class leaders at the moment. We've got Heiko Kolvenbach still in the lead of the prototype class. He's opened the gap up to 13.9 seconds over Lance Loomis, who's just coming through the bus stop right now, and Taylor Lane a further 11 seconds back. Daniel Juncadella has opened up the gap between himself and Ramez Azam, and Kirill Verhey in the third position. In GTE, Patrick Suze in the fourth position, and then Alexander Sheridan is in the fifth position in class and 8th overall. Looks as though that Juncadella had risen for the gap because of the fact that he took a shorter pit stop. It was about 7/10 of a second in the box that he was able to short fill. So whether that's going to play into his favour, well, at the moment it certainly is, but whether the prototypes are able to force that extra lap, we'll see whether that will come into play. We've still got was it 12.5 minutes to go plus 1 lap, so looking at the lap times, you've got about 7 laps to go from my reckoning. So it'll be a 36 to 37 lap race for the prototypes, as we've got Dennis Fiedler in the pit lane.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get close to that lap pace, because looking at the guys, about a 130 or 140 almost second lap there, if we averaged it out for Kolvenbach. So should be able to see, I dare say, like you say, 7 laps still to go, but for the guys behind that potentially short filled those cars, they'll be hoping that Kolvenbach can maybe get a few more laps put down and potentially run this one short. As you can see him working up towards the back of one of the IMSA GT3 cars there, and going to put another position on that car.
Certainly, with respect to Kolvenbach, it looks as though that he has lapped everyone up to Ramez Azam. So some pretty stonking pace out there for the prototype driver. He just runs wide at turn 5, but gets the late apex there for turn 5, so not too much time lost there. Certainly one of those mistakes where you can end up in the fence on the outside there. I happened to make that mistake once or twice, sadly, in the majors race on Saturday, but the conditions were slightly darker in the race, but that was more so towards the end of the 2.4 hour race. But still, just over 10 minutes to go. Kolvenbach about to put a lap on Ramez Azam. It's got a couple of seconds gap between him. Sorry, yeah, between himself and Azam.
Yeah, we should see him close up that gap, and I think that pass will get completed through turn 1. Alain Day still pushing through. Gabriel Rizzo now up on screen, currently down 18th overall. He's got a little bit of traffic just around him. That's Darryl Sutherland just behind there, who's also sporting a little bit of damage on his Mercedes in that retro livery. I'm just trying to think of the name of it, but the Flying Lizard car, sorry. So a little bit of damage on that one, as you can see from the onboard shot, but they're pushing along pretty well. Lap times between both those drivers pretty close, and actually Sutherland gets an easy move done on the run into turn 5 there.
Yeah, it's a good move for the Sutherland there, with the the stricken Mercedes of Rizzo, and Flamont and Imagawa. Imagawa just a little bit behind, and one of the prototypes, I think that might be Veldman, potentially. No, that was Lance Loomis running wide at the middle part of turn 5, so no harm done, apart from the gap opening up to 16 seconds over Covenbach. But John Cadella putting a lap on Rizzo right now, so got to be careful with a couple of the leaders coming through and the prototype as well. Yeah, that's overall leader as well.
Yeah, that was very, very close there for Cadella on the exit. Nearly got a little bit of side bump from Rizzo on the exit of the bus stop there, which I thought those two might have had a little bit of contact. A big dive up under brakes just behind Rizzo there. That's Daniel Flemont, and he come in really hot there in the Mercedes. Nearly got that positional change. We can still see just behind that as well. You've got Armin Ruzin, so not too far behind there. You should be able to slowly get back up, but that little bit of traffic in front is going to hurt him trying to get back up to the rear end of Daniel Juncadella there.
Yeah, certainly just looking, this is the closest battle in the circuit right now, as Rizzo holding up Romeo Azam in the background with that mistake through turn 5. Coming up over onto the banking right now, so Azam trying to get the move done. Rizzo sort of holding the middle line, closing up into the bottom there. Looks to say that the BMW will get the run due to the damage that Rizzo has, and Rizzo just kindly gets out of the way. But Azam has fallen to 3.4 seconds gap over Juncadella.
Yeah, that has probably been aided a little bit too by the guys having to work their way through the traffic. Maybe just got a couple of bad or mistimed runs there, which ultimately held him up. Obviously, when we move off to the 24-hour next week, you do have plenty of opportunity to recover those, but in a 1-hour sprint, it's a little bit tight. And the other issue that we could be seeing for Azim right now is also a bit of tyre degradation that's ultimately hurting him depending on the setup. So no doubt the conclusion of this one, the boys at SimSul will be jumping all over the data to try and make sure what they've got is certainly going to work well for them as they head forward to the Daytona 24-hour.
Yeah, certainly with the 1-hour race, typically you would see drivers pitting around the 30-minute mark on a 45-minute race, but with the extended 1-hour race, it's been a little bit all over the place with the widened pit window, but certainly provided a lot of strategies out there as well, which has been great to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think for the strategy plays that we've seen from these guys, a lot of them tried to come in quite early, which is not a bad idea. We know the GT3 cars can ultimately try and run out that hour time window from what we've seen at the likes of Le Mans last year and throughout the 24. But for the guys a little further up the Daytona prototypes, they got equally as good a tyre or fuel mileage out of those cars as well. So traditionally we do see them in between around that 25-minute mark on the normal 45-minute race, but they're able to extend quite a long way out. So fair play to them there. They've got a lot of good mileage under those cars. Just keeping an eye here, Alain Day sitting down in the 11th position. He's actually up 10 spots from where he started tonight, so it's been a great run for him, 8th in class as well. And he has lost a little bit of time there off the back of Troy Maguire, but all in all, the pace of that car still looking quite good. No damage on it as well, so he'll be really pleased with being able to bring this one home without a scratch on it.
Yeah, certainly. Especially with that three wide moments into turn 1 with Troy Maguire, and let's see if I can find the other drivers, Johan Hellemans from memory. Hellerman's just fallen a little bit further back. He has, I think, recently pitted. Well, he's pitted another time after Alan Day and Troy Maguire, so that's why he is 4 spots back overall, but still in the top 10 in the GTEs. He's got a 6-second gap to the next car in front of him, and that's Christopher Zerchling, and then Scott Kozlowski is a further 2.5 seconds behind him. So gap between all of the drivers has been fairly stretched out, but still a couple of the drivers within 2 to 3 seconds of each other.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a little surprised to see Suzuki so far down the order. We know Trick Sim Sports normally put a really good car together, and likewise, what we've suggested with the likes of Alan Day and the boys over at SimSA, just getting some good valuable data, ultimately going to help them out. If we do see them running in the 24, you can see a little bit of damage on the back there of Suzuki's car, so he's had a touch of contact with someone, potentially under brakes on the run either to the bus stop or down into turn 1 there. Ultimately, pace not really hurting too bad. He's still in the draft, being able to clock out a 3:14. So the Trick Sim Sports Mercedes AMG certainly got a lot of straight line speed behind it in the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. With the out of the draft, that toe is very, very helpful. It's got Colvin back trying to put a lap on Kozlowski, and a little bit of miscommunication there, but both of them managing to safely navigate each other.
Yeah, that is one of the hard parts for the quicker cars coming through, just trying to make sure that, one, you're spotted, but then ultimately being able to read the line that the drivers in the slightly slower cars are taking. You can see our track temperature has come up marginally since the start of this race. We're up 2 degrees, which a little surprised about given that we're almost in complete shadow. The sun's just about gone down, and surprising with all the running we've had, we've actually gained a little bit of track temperature, so ultimately probably going to help that grip just a touch. But that being said, we're down to 2 minutes to go as our leader is just crossing the line now, so potentially 2 more laps in the bag before we see a conclusion to this one tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, as you say, it was fairly interesting just with the track temperature actually going up, but then potentially the tarmac storing quite a lot of that heat energy from those from that sun. But then again, the clouds have just come over right now, so that track temp will be falling quite rapidly. But with 1.5 minutes to go, that's certainly not really going to play a factor in the rest of the race. As we've got Colvin back just running wide at turn 5. Very, very lucky to gather it back up. We could get a replay of that, and got, I think that's Hellerman's just in front of him, and again a bit of miscommunication, just runs a little bit too deep and couldn't pull it up and runs into the back of the tyre barrier, but luckily not too much damage and just ahead of Kozlowski as well.
Yeah, with the gap that Carolina back had built up, was able just to get away with that. Luckily with the rejoin there, not to get caught up by Kozlowski, who would have been really cautious of watching him come back onto the track there. So cut back to live images, you can see him finally getting through past that Porsche there, and he'll head his way down for the final, second to last time, down the front straight. So 1 more to go as he crosses the line now. So for the final time, he'll start his last lap. 12 more turns to the conclusion of this race.
Certainly been a very dominating performance from Colvin back, consistently being the fastest driver of the entire field, by the last lap with that mistake, with the GTE just in front of him, but certainly been able to put a 13-second gap over the field has been a true testament to his pace out there. But cut away, see if we've got any other battles quickly. Other closest battle at the moment is just Sheridan and Sajay, 4th and 5th position at the moment. They're coming around to start the final lap of their race tonight. And I think, was it Gabriel Rizzo and Lars Martin Rubert? This is the battle for 8th and 9th in the GT3 class. And Rubert getting the job done on Rizzo. I think Rizzo potentially, don't know whether he's out of fuel or anything like that, but slowing up quite heavily. So, in saying that though, Colvenbach, absolutely dominant performance in his Daytona prototype, and for the final time he will cross the line for round number 6 checkered flag iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship win. So congratulations to him. Lance Loomis, who will finish 13.7 seconds back by the looks of it, and also Daniel Juncadella just behind him as well will take the GTE category win, and congratulations to him. So Ramez is about 6.8 seconds back, so he will finish in second position, and Kirill Verhey is about to cross the line right now. So quite a lot of gaps there between the GTE drivers, and looking at our GT3 leaders at the moment, Louis Pello Gallon and Christopher Zerchling. This is actually a battle for the lead at the moment. So Zerchling getting ahead of Louis Pello Gallon, and it looks as though that potentially
Gallon could potentially be out of fuel there, yeah.
Yeah, just looking at the rev counter, it looks as though that Louis Pello Gallon is sort of trickling home on fuel. So Christopher Zerchling coming around the bus stop for the final time, and it's been a fairly measured run for Zerchling, but Louis Pello Gallon trying to mount a final attack, but it looks as though that Gallon's not going to be able to get the job done. So Zerchling is going to come across the line and take the GT3 checkered flag and win for round number 6 of the IMSA Sportscar Championship. So congratulations to him. And Louis Pello Gallon is about to trying to look across the line now, and I think he will be the final car to take the checkered flag.
Yeah, slow way to get across the line. Unfortunately, not getting enough fuel in that car, and he had a very quick pit stop time as well. So he's done a very good job to be able to pull that.
Yeah, absolutely. With especially with the fact that he was leading the race for most of the way, but to get done by that was certainly a heartbreaking way to finish second, but still a well deserved result for the driver of Louis Pello Gallon. But actually, I'm just going to see if there is another car on the field at the moment, but it looks as though we're able to bring the final race results here for round number 6 of the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship, and Heiko Colvenbach takes the win over Lance Loomis, 13.6 seconds gap between the first and second drivers, and then Taylor Lane 33 seconds behind the eventual winner. Daniel Juncadella in the 4th position overall, but critically takes the GTE category win. Ramez Azam in the 2nd position, and Kirill Verhey in the 3rd position. Patrick Sujet, Alexander Sheridan, Fabio Rule, and then Troy Maguire rounding out the top 10 overall. Alan Day in the 11th position. Richard Cawthrow, Cawthrow, and then Christopher Zerchling, the GT3 category winner. Louis Pello Gallon in 2nd position, and Scott Zaslowski in the 3rd position in class. Dennis Fiedler in 16th. Daryl Sutherland in 17th, and David Flamont in 18th. 19th was Richard Burzel, Max Maltino, Shot Imagawa, Lars Martin Robert in 22nd, Johan Hellemans, Gabriel Rizzo, uh, Yellow Walters, Dominic Ferreras, Alec Biddle, Lennox Drolet, we're into the retirements now, sadly. Alexander Veldman, Lockie Brown, Jasper Drilicar, Mercier Alexandri, Ben Snell, Morton Sterregard, Felton, Chris Harvey, Cameron Dance with that contact on lap number 3 or 4. Sadly finishes in 36th position. Govan Keeney and Clint Smith rounding out the field here today.
Unfortunate for Clint, also not having a great run there either. But all in all, I think for the racing that we were able to get up, and apologies again for some of the technical issues that we did have, we saw some fantastic driving racing by all the competitors out.
Yeah, certainly. Daytona, with being one of those tracks that provides very high speed action and certainly a lot of close racing out there tonight. Yeah, couldn't put a foot wrong, to be honest. Certainly been a cracking round number 6 of the IMSA Sportscar Championship, and certainly turning to next week, we're at Le Mans, and that's going to be another high-speed drive fest, but still a lot of close racing that we're certainly looking forward to as well.
Yeah, definitely. Really looking forward to that one.
But I think with the technical issues, sadly, I don't think we'll have any driver interviews, which is a shame, really. But then again, due to the technical issues, certainly can be understandable. But just coming up, just looking at what's coming up on Apex Racing TV on the Wednesday, no, sorry, later Tuesday night, we've got the Diaz Community Series for round number 2 of that championship. That'll be at 2 a.m. GMT, and that'll be at Concord Speedway. And then on Friday, we've got the official IndyCar Series for round number 6 of the championship. That'll be at Homestead. And then also on Friday as well, we've got the AOSC Super Series as well. That'll be starting at, I think, 9:45 a.m. GMT. So certainly looking forward to that as well. New series here on Apex Racing TV, but that will be streamed on the iRacing Esports Network. And then on Sunday, we've got the Abruzzi Sim Racers World Endurance Series for the second round of the championship here at Daytona Road, and also coverage will be starting at 1300 GMT as well. Later on the Sunday night, we have the ARL American GT Series for round number 7 of that championship. That'll be at Daytona as well. So a lot of action coming up at Daytona this week. And then on the Monday evening US time, early Tuesday morning, we have the Rick Mattek Sportscar Championship. That'll be at Interlagos for the second round of that championship, and then we'll be back as well for back at the same time next week for the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship. That'll be at Le Mans, as we said, for round number 7 of the championship. But just as we thought that there may not be any driver interviews, but certainly we have Alan Day, and I'll bring him up into the commentary box quickly for a chat with Daniel Leet.
G'day, Alan. Congratulations on the run today, mate. Looked very, very comfortable in the BMW as we've always expected, but you found yourself in some good competition and some fantastic 3-wide action on the run into turn 1 and a couple of points. How was it from your point of view?
I'm still learning about the car quite a lot, because the BMW we're focusing on as a team with E-Team throughout this year in 2020. The setup was definitely a lot more comfortable compared to what it was last week. I felt like we was dropping off the pace a little bit, especially mid-corner with the car getting out of shape, but we seem to have mainly resolved that now with a little bit of help from our setup resources as well that we managed to obtain. But I think if we didn't manage to have that, we definitely wouldn't be having this great achievement. So everybody working together within the team has definitely been a big help to us all, and we're definitely moving forward.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen the progression of the team throughout the course of the GT3 field in IMSA last season, and obviously with you guys moving up into the GT3, another great learning curve for you. But all in all, the car's looking very well. I think you come home, no incidents or damage on the vehicle, which is a great achievement for the hour. Did you find it a big difference going from the traditional 45 minutes and stepping up to the hour mark at all?
I don't think it made a massive difference to me. I think it was more of like I conserved the tires a little bit more at the start, especially as I knew the starts can be quite messy at Daytona during the first 10 minutes or so, and it definitely showed with Cameron Dance being amongst us in the opening few laps or so. I'm not sure if he had an incident on the first lap or anything like that, but when he got in the midst of all of us while I was competing with some other drivers, I seemed to just pick off rival drivers within my class because they were getting inside of a squabble with another class car.
Well, yeah, that was there was a lot of great battles all up and down the field, and I think some of the calls you made there are very smart just to get out of, especially that run with the 3 wide into turn 1. There's not a lot of room there for an error, and very easy to make a mistake. We saw it in the prototype fields with Cam Dance actually getting involved in one of the cars that had spun around. So great consistent driving there, mate, must be said. But next week, obviously you've got the Daytona 24. I'm sure your team are looking forward to being out and competing in that. And then off for IMSA, off at least to Le Mans for the 24-hour race there.
Yeah, we've been training quite hard for Daytona 24 hours. We've been practicing quite a lot over the last couple of weeks. The setup that I actually drove with this evening is actually not the Daytona 24-hour setup that we were originally planning to go with. It was just something that came up, and I thought I'd give it a go because I was finding that the car was oversteering quite a lot in the kink and on the bus stop, so it was getting quite badly out of shape. So I was losing a little bit of time because of that. But with looking into this setup that I was actually given, and I've been asking the rest of the team to actually have a look at it and see how they feel for themselves, because obviously it's going to be a bit of a change because we're still learning the car. But I definitely think with the setup changes that I've managed to get, it's definitely a positive setup changes.
Fantastic, and that's the best way forward, mate. But before we let you go and enjoy what was a great run tonight, was there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and a thanks to for all?
Yeah, me too, but it's definitely been a big help. We're all getting with each other ready for Daytona 24, and obviously for the year ahead, we're going to be competing in a couple of big events. With iRacing, we're going to be competing in the GTR 24-hour series, which is a 5 race of series across the year. The first race is going to be at the start of next month. But obviously, with us learning the cars, obviously a new ground step. The team's not quite so experienced with 24-hour races, but we're definitely making some great paces. So the team's obviously very devoted towards that, and also to Craig's setup shop as well for providing the setup as well, especially to Craig Williams, who's been working extremely hard to provide a setup to everybody that does require a setup, especially leading up to Daytona 24.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Well, look, again, from all of us here, congratulations on another great run tonight, and all the best for the 24-hour race to yourself and the team, and we'll look forward to catching you back out on track again for next week's IMSA.
Thank you very much, guys.
So that was Alan Day coming home in the 8th position in the GTE category. Had a very, very strong result, up 10 positions from where he started in the race. So very, very solid effort from him, and certainly a driver that's been improving ever since we saw him on the IMSA Sportscar Championship, coincidentally in the prototypes actually. So been through all the classes and certainly been able to find home in the GTE. So certainly a well-deserved result for him.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, I mean, the team's come on leaps and bounds through the course of the GT3, and stepping up to GTE is only another feather in the cap for them. So congratulations to those.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that'll pretty much wrap it up for tonight's IMSA Sportscar Championship broadcast. Yeah, once again, apologies for the technical issues that we've had throughout the night, but certainly looking forward to the next round of the iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship at the same time of 8:45 a.m. GMT. Once again, thanks very much to Daniel Leet tonight, as always, for jumping in the broadcast booth and helping me out tonight. So thanks once again.
No, that's quite all right, mate. Nice to be back. Obviously, we've had Weehan helping out so far with the championship and done a fantastic job. But yeah, great to come back and just lend a hand to help out for this.
Absolutely, much appreciated. So thanks very much to everyone for tuning in. Be sure to tune in for one of the following Apex Racing TV broadcasts, either here on our associated platforms of Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube, or on the iRacing Esports Network. We also broadcast their uh, series as well. So thanks very much for tuning in, and we will look forward to your company in a future iRacing broadcast.